Hey there, good morning or good afternoon. So today we're going to be diving into 7.2 all the way to 7.8. And we're just going to be looking at various kinds of modal verbs and kind of more about their meaning, right? So 7.1 was just a general review over all of the modal verbs and the forms of the verb that we would use after, right? But we didn't really look very closely at any of the meanings. So today we're going to be talking about, first of all, modal verbs to express ability, which is 7.2, which is in your book on page 1. So looking at page 180 at the 7.2 box, right, we have verbs that can express ability, and ability is anything that you have the ability to do, right? So if you are a native speaker of Arabic, you have the ability to speak Arabic, we would say you can speak Arabic, right? Or me, for example, what are some things that I'm able to do or I can do? I can drive, I can cook, I'm able to talk to my family via messenger, for example. These are all abilities that we have. So the main form to talk about something that's in the present or in the near future would be can, right? If you look at examples A, B, and C, Bob can play the piano. That's an ability that he has all the time, right? You can buy a screwdriver at a hardware store all the time. And then C, I can meet you at Ted's tomorrow afternoon. So this is an ability that we have in the future, tomorrow, okay? The negative form, as in D, we can say can't, cannot, and cannot. Cannot and cannot, they sound the same, and they're pretty much the same. But they just don't have a space. There's really not a difference, right, in the meaning. If in spoken English, we're most likely to say can't because it's faster and easier, and we, in any language, we'll always say the fastest thing possible. But if you really want to emphasize that it's like not an ability or something, then you would say cannot, right? For example, you cannot go out during, you cannot go out these days because it's dangerous, right? For example. Or if you're going to study, for example, you cannot be in a distracting environment. It's really important, right? I'm trying to express important, so I would say the whole form, okay? If we're talking about abilities in the past, the most common way to say it is could. For example, I could drive when I was 20 years old, right? I started when I was 18, okay? I could drive when I was 20 years old. I couldn't speak Spanish before I moved to Spain, for example, okay? Now, those are just two tenses that we have there, right? We either have can or could, right? Present, near future, or the past, okay? But if I wanted to use another tense, right? For example, if I want to talk about an activity that began at a time in the past and it's still true now, right? What tense should I use? If you said the present perfect, you're correct. So say, for example, I can drive now. I started to drive when I was 18. So what if I wanted to say basically the idea I can drive since I was 18? That's an incorrect sentence, right? I need to have, and there's no base form of the verb can, okay? If I want to express that idea of having the ability, I would use the form be able to, right? So the only verb in the phrase be able to is be, okay? So I would, apply the formula for the present perfect. Have plus verb 3 of the verb be. I have been able to drive since I was 18. Okay, so this is really why we have be able to. I can use it in the present. I can use it in the past as well. I am able to drive a car. I was able to drive a car last year. All of these are fine. But typically we stick with can and could for present and past because it's just the fastest way, okay? And we'll use be able to. For example, you can use it for the future as well. You will be able to leave your home, for example, in the next couple of weeks, inshallah, right? All right, so we're going to practice with this really quickly, looking at exercise 5, okay? So exercise 5, I have 4 sentences, and they want you to complete the sentences with can or can't, all right? So exercise 5, let's just do this one together, part 1, and then part 2, I'll pause the recording and give you a little bit of time, okay? So number 1, right, it says a dog can swim, but it can't fly. Number 2, a frog can live both on land and water, but a cat can't. Parallel structure here, right? Notice. So I'm just going to use the modal verb, or the first helping verb I see. Okay? I don't have to say the whole verb again. You could if you want, but it's not necessary. Okay, a bilingual person can't speak 3 languages, right? Bilingual means 2, right? 2 languages. But a trilingual person can. And then we have people with a PhD degree can use doctor in front of their name, but people with a master's degree can't. Okay, so go ahead right now, and I'm going to have you pause the recording and do part 2. So this is creating the exact same sentences, but let's see, yeah, but using be able to. So the first one I already did, right? A dog is able to swim, but it isn't able to fly. So take a second, pause the recording, complete 2, 3, and 4, and then come start it again when you're ready to check, okay? Okay, ready? All right. So we have a frog is able to live both on land and water, but a cat isn't, or you could also say the full helping verb form isn't able to, okay? Bilingual person isn't able to speak 3 languages, but a trilingual person is able to. Sorry for the typo. People with a PhD degree are able to use doctor in front of their name, but people with a master's degree aren't, or aren't able to. Okay? So that's all we're going to look at right now for 7.2. And we're actually just going to move straight on to the next unit, right? Page 182, 7.3. Okay? So here we're talking about 2 kinds of modal verbs. Modal verbs that express the possibility, so there's a chance that something could happen. Especially with these ones, I think we already looked at it back in chapter 3 last semester. May, might, and maybe. Typically that's about a 50-50 chance that something is possible, okay? And then we also have modal verbs that express permission, giving you permission to do something, right? So you're going to, and you'll notice may shows up both for possibility or for permission, okay? So you're going to have to look at the context to decide what I'm using it for. So let's look at the examples that they give us, okay? A, it may rain tomorrow. It might rain tomorrow, meaning here is exactly the same. Why isn't John in class? I don't know. He may or he might be sick today, all right? So these are both possibilities that are true in the present or in the future, okay? It may not rain tomorrow. It might not rain. That would be the negative form. We notice we're not using contractions here. And then F, maybe it will rain tomorrow, right? So maybe we also saw back in chapter 3, right? Maybe we need to put at the beginning of the sentence, and then we'll use whatever tense corresponds, right, to the time frame. For example, tomorrow I would use a future form. And you'll notice that this is actually a prediction. So you could say maybe it will rain tomorrow, or maybe it is going to rain tomorrow, okay? Also, we would have, you could have it in the present if you're talking about something that could be true in the present, right? Maybe John is sick, okay? But take a look at G and F. I have it sounds like maybe again, but it's actually may space be, okay? John may be sick today. I could also insert another verb, right? John may go to work tomorrow, right? You wouldn't say John may go, right? Or may go John to work tomorrow, right? So notice, right? May, the modal verb may will show up with the action verb be afterwards, but it's not the same. It needs to have a space in between the two, all right? Especially if it's in the middle of the sentence, all right? Pay attention to that. Okay, so I and J and K are all examples of permission or lack of permission. Okay, so I and J, it says, yes, children, you may have a cookie after dinner, or you can have a cookie after dinner. It's the same meaning, right? It means they have permission to have a cookie after dinner, okay? Or denying permission. You may not have a cookie, or you can't have a cookie, all right? So let's take a look here. Let's do exercise 10 together. So exercise 10, we have this situation where we're in a courtroom. Okay, someone got a speeding ticket. You know, in America, if you get a speeding ticket, you can go to the court and you can like fight it, basically. But you know, it's a lot of time and a lot of effort. Here, I told you guys I had to pay my speeding ticket. I paid it yesterday. Oh my gosh, it was so convenient. I just go to the ATM and khalas. It's perfect, right? I love your system, actually. All right, so this person wants to save money though, so they're going into court to ask the judge about the speeding ticket if they can fight it. Okay, so we have 4 sentences, and you're going to complete the sentences with can, may, or might. So can, may, or might. All right, so let's take a look. No one speaks without the judge's permission. This one's already done. You not speak until the judge asks you a question. All right, so you something, not speak, right? Do you think I'm talking about a possibility, like maybe, or am I talking about something that you're allowed or you're not allowed to do? I think it's the second one, something you're not allowed to do. So we would look at modal verbs that are giving us permission, right? So number 1 is may or can, and it's expressing permission. Number 2, the judge may or might reduce your fine, or she may or might not. It depends, right? This one looks more like a possibility. What about number 3? You cannot or you may not argue with the judge, right? It's not allowed, okay? This is giving permission. Number 4, you have a strong case. I'm not sure if you will convince the judge. You may or might win, or you may or might not, okay? This is a possibility, right? Talking about chances, okay? All right, so we're gonna move on then and take a look at number 11. This is more just dealing with the forms, okay? So all of the sentences are going to have the same meaning. They're all talking about possibility, okay? And you're going to be moving between using may, might, or maybe. So they're gonna give you the form at the top with the same meaning, and you're going to change it in the other sentences using the modal verbs they give you, okay? So let's take a look. Number 1, it says it may snow tonight. I think I typed this one wrong. Let's see. Oh, no, it's correct. All right, it may snow tonight. And then to say this with might, you would say, there it is, right? It might snow tonight, or maybe it will snow tonight. All right. Number 2, so yeah, so there's a mistake here, right? I forgot to say it might snow tonight. Delete, change may to might. Easy enough. Okay. You might need to wear your boots. You may need to wear your boots, or maybe you will need to wear your boots, okay? Maybe there will be a blizzard. There may be a blizzard, and there might be a blizzard, all the same, okay? All right. So let's go to the next one, looking at exercise 12. All right, I'm just going to give you my answer so that you can see this in real life, okay? So answer each question with may, might, and maybe. Include 3 possibilities in each answer, all right? And if you guys want to do this activity with your special friend that you decided to practice this with, I think it's a great idea, okay? All right, so what are you going to do tomorrow night? So I could say tomorrow night, maybe I will go to Miss Ruth's house. We usually have dinner. I'm probably going to Miss Ruth's house. We usually have dinner at her house on Tuesday nights. And tomorrow and we always like have a theme. It's really fun. So like some nights we do Mexican food or Japanese food or French food or something. Tomorrow night we're doing Peruvian food. Peruvian food is delicious. It's one of my favorites. You have to try it if you get the opportunity. So I would say maybe I'll go to Miss Ruth's house. I may eat Peruvian food, and I might go to bed early, for example. Okay, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Well, we're in Jeddah, so I think we have not many options. But I could say it may rain, it might be cloudy, or maybe it will be sunny, right? Or there may be another sandstorm, okay? What is our teacher going to do tonight? That's me, right? Tonight is Monday. So tonight I am going to, or maybe I will do yoga. I might read a book, and I may talk to a friend on the phone, for example. Okay, someone isn't in class today. I wonder where they are. Well, it could be anyone. So I will choose a random student. Let's go with Leanne. Okay. So where's Leanne? Maybe Leanne is visiting her family in. She has extended family in Qasim, right? Leanne may. Let's see. Leanne may be studying. Okay, so I used here may with the present progressive, right? Because I'm thinking it's something that she might be in the middle of doing right now, okay? So if I'm talking about something that I think might be happening right now, might be in progress right now, I would use may plus be, base form, plus verb ing, right? So Leon may be studying, or she might be sleeping, for example, okay? All right. And your occupation in 10 years from now. My occupation, I could say maybe I will be a nurse, right? Why not? Could be fun. Switch it up. Or I might be an English teacher still, or maybe I already said maybe I will be a nurse. I might be an English teacher, or I might be a pilot, right? That's a fun job. You get to travel a lot. Probably not, though. Okay. All right, so we're going to now take a look at exercise 14. Go down, all right? And I want you to think about this, okay? We're going to be talking about using the verb could, okay? And could, we use could for both, or all three, the past, the present, and the future, right? All of these are possible with could, and it's going to depend on the context. So let's see if we already have an intuition about how this works. Looking at exercise 14, I have 3 sentences, okay? There's 5 minutes left and the score is 3-3. Our team could win. The goalie is on the ground. He could be hurt. And our team didn't win. We couldn't score another goal. So one of these sentences is in the present, one of them is in the future, and one of them is in the past. What do you guys think? So for the future, if you said number 1, right, there's 5 minutes left and the score is 3-3, our team could win. Very good, yes, this is correct. It is the future. Number 2, the goalie is on the ground. He could be hurt. This is the present. And our team didn't win. We couldn't score another goal. And this is the past, right? This is done. And one thing that I did, right, to figure this out is I looked at the other sentences, especially in number 2, the goalie is on the ground. That's something present now, right? So obviously that's going to be a present possibility. Our team didn't win. We couldn't score another goal. That is the past, okay? Didn't, right? All right, so let's take a look at the box. Here's the examples, right? How was the movie? Could you understand the English? Could is, here is actually a past ability, not a past possibility. To talk about a past possibility, we don't use could. All right, we use a different form that we're not even going to study here. We would use could have, which is actually the third conditional, right? But we don't study that in this book at all. Okay, so don't worry about that. So past, could in the past is only an ability, okay? Now, if it's the present, it could be an ability or it could be a possibility, all right? 2 options. Same for the future, right? A future ability or a future possibility. Why isn't Greg in class? I don't know. He could be sick. This is a present possibility. Look at those clouds. It could start raining any minute. That's a future possibility, right? We'll use the base form after those still, all right? So let's look at exercise 15. All right, go ahead, pause the recording, and put an X, right, in the correct boxes. So you need to decide, is could in each of these sentences past, present, or future? And is it talking about an ability or a possibility? All right, so go ahead, pause the recording, and come back when you're ready. All right, so number 1, I could be home late. This is a future possibility, okay? He could speak Swahili. This is a past ability. Number 3, she could be at the mall. We have a present possibility. Number 4, I could climb trees, a past ability. Yuki's plane could arrive early. It's a future possibility. And it could be a piece of fuzz. This is a present possibility, okay? And let's see, I think, okay, so yeah, we're going to take a look now at exercise 16, all right? So, and oh yeah, one thing I just wanted to mention, at any time, once again, I'm always going to say this, feel free, if you're confused about any of the answers as you're watching this, if you got the wrong answer, make a note and feel free at any time to message me on the WhatsApp group or at one of the times that we meet on Blackboard, okay? All right, so looking at exercise 16, okay? We have some situations where people kind of have a problem, and so you're going to use could to talk about potential solutions to the problem, right? Number one is done. It says Tim has to go to work early tomorrow, or that's number one, it's the example, sorry. Tim has to go to work early tomorrow. His car is completely out of gas and his bicycle is broken. So what other options does he have to get to work, right? It says he could take the bus to work. He could get a friend to take him to a gas station to get gas. He could try to fix his bike. He could get up very early and walk to work. What else could he do? He could take a taxi, for example, or he could pretend he's sick, call in sick, and not even go to work, right? Lots of options here. So go ahead, pause the recording, take a look at these 4 situations and think of solutions to the problem and see if your options, if the solutions that you thought of were the same as the ones that I thought of, okay? See you on the next slide. All right, so Lisa walked to school today. Now she wants to go home. It's raining hard, she doesn't have an umbrella, and she's wearing sandals. So what did I say? She could take an Uber, she could ask her friend for a ride, or she could get wet, right? It's not the end of the world, especially if it's not cold. Okay, number 2, Joe and Joan want to get some exercise. They have a date to play tennis this morning, but the tennis court is covered with snow. They could reschedule. They could go to an indoor tennis court. They could do another kind of exercise. Okay? All right, number 3, Roberto just bought a camera. He has it at home now. He has the instruction manual. It's written in Japanese, and he can't read Japanese. He doesn't know how to operate the camera. So what could he do? He could ask someone at the store. He could learn Japanese. He could watch a tutorial about how the camera works on YouTube. You know, he could find a Japanese friend. All perfect options, okay? All right. And then number 4, Albert likes to travel around the world. He's 22 years old. Today he's alone in Paris. He needs to eat and needs to find a place to stay overnight. But while he was asleep on the train last night, someone stole his wallet, and poor thing, he has no money. So let's see, what did I advise him to do? He could sing for money, right? Practice his creativity. He could go to the embassy and ask for help from his embassy. I think it's covered by the camera, but we say he could rob a bank, right? For example. I don't recommend that one though. That seems kind of like the worst option to me. All right. So that's it. We're going to take a look now at 7.5. So 7.5 is dealing with questions that are polite, right? Or also therefore asking for permission, okay? So the forms we're going to be looking at are can I, could I, and may I. And spoiler, if look at these 3 sentences, may I borrow your pen, could I borrow your pen, can I borrow your pen, the meaning is exactly the same, 100% the same, okay? Now, can is a little bit less formal, but honestly, even if I was speaking to King Salman, I would say, can I borrow your pen? It's not disrespectful instead of saying, could I borrow your pen? Okay, just so you know. May I borrow your pen? That's almost like too formal. Like, I feel like most people, most native speakers don't use that almost anymore. It's more like my parents or my grandparents would say that. If you want to make it a little bit more polite, you could put please in either after I. So you could say, can I please borrow your pen? Or can I borrow your pen, please? Right? All right. So let's take a look at, we're going to look at exercise 719. So, so exercise 19, we have some conversations, 6 conversations, and they want you to choose a verb from the top and then complete it with the correct modal verb with I. So it would be, for example, may I, can I, or could I? Guys, on these exercises, on this exercise here, you can use any of them and the meaning would be exactly the same. For example, number 1, I put, could I talk to him? Hello, is Mr. Ahmed there? Yes, he is. Could I talk to him? If you said, may I talk to him, or can I talk to him, that's also totally correct, okay? So I only put 1 for each one, but all forms are correct, okay? So pause really quickly. I'm going to dive in and give the rest of the answers, but go ahead and do them by yourself first before continuing on, okay? Okay, so number 2, hello, Mr. Black's office. Can I speak to Mr. Black? May I ask who's calling? Number 3, hello, hi, this is Bob. Could I talk to Pedro? Good afternoon, Mr. Wu's office. Can I help you? Okay, hello, hello. May I talk to Emily? She's not home right now. Can I take a message? Okay. Hello, hello. May, oh, do I have May? Could I speak to Maria? She's not here right now. Oh, can I leave a message? Okay, but once again, if you put may or can or could for any of these, they're all correct, okay? All right, so those are asking for permission for yourself, okay? If you're asking in a polite way or a less formal way for someone else to do something to help you, you would say, you have some options. Let's look at exercise 21 together. So in exercise 21, I have 5 sentences, okay? And first of all, let's decide which of these sentences are grammatically correct. Okay, number 1, exercise 21 on the bottom of page 188. Will you help me load the dishes? Correct? Yes, it's grammatically correct. Number 2, would you load the dishes? Is this correct? Yes, it's correct. If you said yes, you're correct. Okay, what about number 3? May you load the dishes in the dishwasher? No, this is not correct. You don't use may for you. You would use only may for first person. So may I or may we? Okay? Can you unload the dishwasher? And could you unload the dishwasher? These are both correct. Okay, now, out of these sentences, so we have 4 sentences that are grammatically correct. Out of these grammatically correct sentences, which ones are more formal and which ones are less formal? Take a minute. What do you think? So the more formal ones would be number 2, would you load the dishwasher? And 5, could you unload the dishwasher? The less formal ones would be, will you help me with the dishes? Or can you unload the dishwasher? So will and can are a tiny bit less formal, and could and would are a little bit more formal or a little bit more polite, okay? So, taking a look at the box, right, we just have examples. They all have the same meaning. They say, I want you to do something for me. I want your help with something. Would you open the door? Could you open the door? Will you open the door? Can you open the door? Okay? So looking at exercise 22, all right, we have a situation and we want someone to do something for us to make the situation better, right? So if you we'll read the situation and then write a formal request and an informal request. We'll just do this all together. So you're in a room and it's getting very hot. The formal way to say this would be, would you please open the window? And the informal way would be, can you turn on the air conditioner, right? You're trying to listen to the news on TV, but your friends are talking too loud and you can't hear it, right? What did we say? Could you please lower your voice? Can you stop talking? Will you shut up? Don't say that. That's very rude, actually. And then number 3, you're in a restaurant, you're about to pay, and you notice the bill is more than it should be. The server's made a mistake. Formally, we would say, would you check the bill again? Informal, will you check the bill? Okay? All right. Exercise, we're going to go to the next page. Exercise 24, page 190. Okay? So, we're looking at giving advice. Okay? So our friend Paula has a terrible headache. What advice would you give her? Check the sentences you agree with. So we have 1, you should lie down. You should take some medicine. You ought to call the doctor. You should go to the emergency room, and you ought to put an ice pack on your forehead. I mean, I guess there's like no really right or wrong answers here. I do think if you go to the emergency room for you're being very dramatic, uh, I don't know, putting ice on your forehead, does that help for a headache? I've never tried that. I guess I would probably tell her to lie down. For me, that always helps if I have a headache. Or drink water. That's not here. You should drink water. If you guys have a magical cure for a headache, share it in our WhatsApp group. All right, so we're basically looking at the modal verbs should and ought to, okay? So should and ought to have the exact same meaning, right? You should lie down, you ought to lie down, exactly the same, okay? Um, let's look at the examples. My clothes are dirty, I should wash them, or I ought to wash them. Notice that after should you use the base form, and after ought we always have the preposition to. So we would say we would use the infinitive after ought, right? You should do this or you ought to do this. You need your sleep. You shouldn't stay up late. So if you're giving kind of like negative advice in a way, like if your advice is going to be in the negative form, things that are not a good idea to do, we'll use shouldn't. Okay. There is a way to use it with ought, but it's very uncommon, and I don't think it's not even in the book, so I'm not even going to talk about it. I don't want to confuse you, okay? So for negatives, we'll just say shouldn't, negative advice. I'm going to be late for the bus. What should I do? For questions, also, you wouldn't use ought to typically, right? You would ask should. All right. If we want, okay, so, everybody's a little bit different. Every culture is a little bit different. In English-speaking cultures, they're very conscientious of trying to be polite, right? I'm not saying that other cultures aren't polite, but there's certain things that, for example, in American culture and in British culture, we say please all the time, right? Like, and I was reading actually a story about how Russians, for example, they think we sound weird because if I'm having dinner with you and I ask you to pass the salt, I would say please in English. Would you please pass the salt, right? But in Russian, it almost sounds like fake or like too much. Like if you say, like, you would just say like pass the salt, and that's, totally normal. Same in Spain. In America, I would say if I'm in a coffee shop, can I please have a coffee? Could I please have a coffee? And in Spain, you just say, bring me a coffee, right? And it's normal, right, for them. So one thing about this, when you're giving advice, right, if I'm always saying, oh, you should do this, you ought to do this, it sounds a little bit forceful or a little bit bossy. So if I want to make it a little bit softer, I would include maybe, right? So for example, oh, I have a big test tomorrow, I'm really nervous about it. You could say, for example, you could say, well, you should study, right? But if I said maybe you should study, that makes it a little bit more like respectful in a way. Like if I say like you should study, that means like, I know everything and you don't know anything, right? Not so much, but just we're always like looking for the most polite way to say things a lot of times. Okay, so we could say maybe you should go home and take a nap, for example, if you're feeling bad. Okay. All right, so looking at exercise 25, we have some situations and you can use should or ought to. I encourage you to use both. Look at the situations and see what advice would you give. I gave advice as well. I'm going to share the advice on the next slide, but before I do, stop the recording, take a look, and think of the advice that you give, or try to guess the advice that I gave, okay? So go ahead, answer exercise 25, all of these situations with advice, and then we'll check, okay? Okay, so number one, I can't fall asleep at night. I said you should drink chamomile tea, or you should stop using your phone at least 1 hour before going to bed. I have a sore throat. You ought to drink lemon water with honey. Number three, I have the hiccups, right? You guys know the hiccups? I said you should ask a friend to scare you. That's like, I guess, a common, like they believe that, like if you get scared, then your hiccups will go away. I've also heard like weird things, right? Like you should drink water upside down, or like you should eat a spoon of sugar. I don't know. I don't know if any of those work. All right, I sat on my friend's sunglasses. Now the frames are bent. You ought to buy them a new pair or fix them. Maybe they'll like the new pair better though. I am starving, right? I'm so hungry. You ought to eat something, obviously. I dropped my sister's camera and now it doesn't work. You should get it fixed. Someone stole my lunch from the refrigerator in the staff lounge at work. You ought to steal someone else's lunch. And I bought some shoes that don't fit. Now my feet hurt. You should return them. Soak your feet in hot water. You shouldn't wear them again, right? Okay? All right. So any questions here? Once again, you're welcome to message me at any time, okay? All right, so the last one, had better. So had better is like a stronger version of should and ought to. Had better is like, you know, if I say like, oh, you should do this, like, I think it's a good idea. If I say you had better do this, like, you're going to have a problem, right? If you don't do it. So let's take a look. My clothes are dirty. I should wash them. I ought to wash them. I had better wash them. The meaning here is essentially the same, right? If I am like really serious though, I would use only had better, right? You're driving too fast, you had better slow down, right? What'll happen if you don't slow down, right? There's lots of negative consequences. You could get a ticket, right? You could cause an accident. You could, actually, it's even bad for your car. You could cause damage to your car, right? Negative, right? The negative form. If I think this is a bad idea, you had better not eat that meat. It looks spoiled. What happens if you eat spoiled meat? You get really sick and it's really unpleasant, right? So it's just better not to eat the meat at all, right? I had better send my boss an email right away, right? So these are all things that have a little bit more importance or they're a little bit more urgent or serious, all right? Okay, so we're going to take a look at exercise 27. So we have some situations and you're going to give advice, urgent advice, important advice, using had better. Okay, so if the first one is done, I haven't paid my electric bill, you had better pay it by tomorrow. What'll happen if you don't pay it? If you don't pay it, the electric company will turn off the power, right? So go ahead, take a look at 2 through 6, pause the recording, write had better, and also write the possible consequence that might happen if you don't listen to the advice. Okay, so pause and I'll see you on the next page when you're ready to check. All right, so number 2, Joe oversleeps a lot. This week he has been late to work 3 times. His boss is very unhappy. He had better set an alarm. He may be fired, for example. I don't feel good right now. I think I'm coming down with something. I'm coming down with something means I feel like I'm getting sick. Okay, so you had better go to bed early. You might get sick. You might feel worse. Okay, number 4, I can't remember if I locked the front door when I left for work. You had better call your neighbor to check it. Someone may rob your house while you're gone or something may happen, okay? My ankle really hurts. I think I have sprained it. We would say here, you had better go to the doctor. It may get worse or it may be broken. And I can't find my credit card. I've looked everywhere. You had better call the bank. It might be stolen, right? And you want to avoid that issue. That's no fun. Okay, so that's it. So the last thing we're going to do is look at exercise 28. So this is actually a review of everything so far that we studied in chapter 7, which is basically today, right? We've done 2 through 8, and 1 was just like kind of a general introduction to modal verbs. So we have 8 sentences that all have a mistake in them, and you need to figure out what is the mistake. So test yourself, right? See how well you've absorbed this information. I know it's a little bit different than the form that we're used to, right? You can't ask me questions in real time. But test yourself, see what you've been able to learn and figure out. I recommend if you're unsure about something, you can ask someone else in the class. You can ask a question on WhatsApp. Also, you can look back at the boxes, okay? The boxes have all the rules we need. All right, so number 1, right? You will better not be late. We would change will to had better not be late. Number 2, Anna shouldn't wear shorts to work. She shouldn't wear shorts. We need to put the base form after should or shouldn't. Okay, number 3, I should to go to the post office today. I should go, right? Should with base form. Number 4, I ought paying my electric bills. I ought to pay. After ought, we use the infinitive, okay, not the gerund. Number 5, you had better to call the doctor today. So here, you'd better call or you had better call. Basically, we have had twice. So I deleted, you can delete either one. You could either delete the apostrophe D and then you say you had better call. And we also need to remove two, right? After had better, we use the base form. Or you could delete the had and say you better call, okay? All right. You should stay up too late tonight, right? I don't think it's a good idea if you stay up late. I think this is a bad idea, so I would say you shouldn't stay. The negative of should is shouldn't, okay? Number 7, you better not leaving your key in the door. Oh, I forgot the other one. So yeah, you'd better not leave. And after you, sorry, I didn't write it here. After you should also put had, right? Or apostrophe D. You had better not leave, okay? And last one, Mr. Lim is having a surprise party for his wife. He ought told people soon. He ought, what comes after ought, not verb 2, not the simple past, or not verb 3. We use the infinitive. He ought to tell, okay? And oh yeah, exercise 29. I'll give you guys my answers again. All right. These are just giving advice for general situations, right? Just so you guys have a little bit more exposure and practice. So exercise 29, we have some situations and you should give advice, okay? You're using should, ought to, or had better. So if you want to pause, think of your own advice and then check, or you can just watch mine to see it in real life, okay? All right, so I forgot my dad's birthday. I feel terrible about it. What should I do? We'll say you should call him or you ought to buy him a card, right? Okay, I just discovered that I made dinner plans for tonight with 2 different people. I'm supposed to meet my parents at one restaurant at 7, and I'm supposed to meet my boss at a different restaurant at 8. What should I do? What did I say? You had better reschedule one of the meetings, right? Many other options. Okay, Samira accidentally left the grocery store with an item she didn't pay for. Her young daughter put it in her shopping bag and she didn't see it. What should Samira do? She ought to go back to the store and return it, or she should go back to the store and pay for the item. And number 4, I borrowed Karen's favorite book of poetry. It was special to her. A note on the inside of the cover said to Karen. The author's signature was under it. Now I can't find the book. I think I've lost it. What should I do? Ooh, this is a difficult situation, right? Because it's probably sentimental, so you can't just buy her a new one. They say you had better tell her the truth, you ought to apologize, and you should keep looking. Maybe you'll find it, right? All right, so that is it for 7.2 to 7.8. Thanks for your patience, and I will upload this onto Blackboard as soon as I can, or upload it onto YouTube. And once again, at any time, if you have questions, feel free to email or message me in the group, okay? All right, guys, talk to you soon.